Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 249 of the On Air Advocate. Where at the On Air Advocate, we look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited if you are here this morning joining us, or whether you're catching this on the replay. Now, as always, please share the love and hit the button on whatever social media application that you are on if you think any of this content is relevant for anyone that is in your circle. Now, if you guys have been following us on social media this month, we have a lot coming up here at the On Air Advocate for February. But the first thing that we are kicking off with is American Heart Month. And we are in our Heart of It All series. And I am so excited to have with me here this morning Stacy Amstadt and Kelsey Gumm. They are both heart disease survivors, and Kelsey is also a volunteer. So welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, you guys did that like in sync.
We're so in sync. We're always in sync.
Yeah.
Awesome. Stacy, can you just let us know we're going to start with you, a little bit more about yourself, your part in the American Heart Association and the role that you play?
Of course, yeah. I'm Stacy Amstadt, and I'm the communications director at the American Heart Association. I've been with the AHA for 4 years, and really my career at the AHA is driven by my time as a congenital heart defect survivor. And I was actually a volunteer with the AHA before I came on as an employee. And so I've really just always been really interested in being involved with the American Heart Association. Honestly, when I was in high school, when I had my open heart surgery, I already had determined that I wanted to work for the American Heart Association. So
you spoke it into existence.
Yes, yep.
Here you are. And Kelsey.
So I am a heart disease survivor. I have a rare heart condition that was diagnosed after being misdiagnosed for 10 years while I served in the military. And I was connected with Stacy through a friend. And so he was like, you have to tell your story. People need to hear it. And so he introduced me to Stacy, and I just fell in love with being able to share with people how I've overcome this, especially because I'm young and people don't really like put that all together. You know, young people don't get sick or whatever the case may be. And so being able to tell my story and to volunteer with American Heart Association has literally saved my life. Being able to get out of my house and share my story, that's why I volunteer. So American Heart is near and dear to my heart, no pun intended, but it's important to me, and I love volunteering for them.
Thank you. And, before we kind of dive into both of your stories, because we're going to talk a little bit on a deeper level of the different things that you went through, the type of conditions you had, and all of that. Stacy, can you kind of walk us through, when we think of the American Heart Association, it seems so big. Not sure all the things you do, what resources you can access. And if people dive onto the website, they might not even know all the things that they can navigate through with that. But can you just give us a little bit more background with the American Heart Association and all of the things that you guys pillar?
Yeah, so we are a global organization. So we're located all across the United States, and then also in a couple of countries all across the world. But locally here in Milwaukee, and really just overall as an organization, we're really focused not just on heart disease and stroke, but really overall health. So we've really also been focusing on addressing health disparities within our community. And so driving everything that we do is our mission statement. We created a new mission statement just a couple of years ago, and it's to be a relentless force for a world of longer, healthier lives. And we're really working to be a relentless force, especially here in Milwaukee. So we actually convened a couple of just community health organizations across the city to hear what the greatest needs are in Milwaukee and how we can best help meet those needs. And so we determined what our 3 priority areas would be for the next year. And so what we're focusing on here locally is improving food security and access to healthy food. And so some of the ways that we're doing that is through policy efforts that are focused on double dollars and SNAP incentives, which is, when you go, you may have heard of at farmers markets where somebody goes and they receive double dollars based on whatever they're spending. And then also just public support of fruit and veggie prescriptions and improving access to school nutrition for students, getting their school breakfast after the bell. And then we're also trying to eliminate tobacco use that includes e-cigarettes. And so we're helping a lot of schools in making their tobacco policies comprehensive and equitable. And then the other focus is controlling chronic disease, especially blood pressure. So we're helping different clinics with our Target BP program, which provides quality blood pressure management programs, helping patients with better diagnosis and treatment. So it's a broad spectrum of things that we do. And we've been pretty involved in the COVID-19 crisis. And so we've been working with area hospitals to collect and analyze data. And we also were able to give $2.5 million towards research because it definitely has been shown to impact the heart.
With COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were speaking to that about the initiative here in Milwaukee, obviously every state and every agency has their own initiative, right? Their own 3 parts that they're going to follow.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a kind of a global thing with that nutrition. It doesn't even, it kind of is silly, isn't it? That nutrition costs more money.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy food. It's like if we want to make those good choices, we could go through McDonald's and for 49 cents get food, but to go to the farmer's market and get fruits and vegetables and all of that. So, the fact that you guys provide some things that way so that through, local and county, supportive services, they get more dollars, to use. It would be great to see, though, if all of the nutritious foods would lower in price. I don't know how we can make that happen.
And it's also, really a big issue in underserved communities is that they don't have access to those healthy foods. It might be miles away. The closest local grocery store is miles away, and they might have to take 2 buses to get there. So that's really, been a really big push for us, is trying to make it more accessible for people to have access to nutritious foods, because the local corner store that they, maybe the place that they're getting their groceries, and it might have, a few bananas and oranges, but they're really overpriced. And so that's really what we've been working on, is trying to find ways to make that more accessible for people.
Yes, such a need, such a need. And I know that we're going to kind of chat about, there's tons of stuff going on this month and tons of education that are out there for people to take advantage of for free, which we will, get to kind of as we wrap up. But because Kelsey, she's had to sit here a little bit quiet, I want to bring her in here. And so, Kelsey, you know what? Can you take us on a little deeper dive into your story, the type of condition that you have? Obviously, we know that because of your condition and the things that you went through, that kind of brought you to the place of being a volunteer for the American Heart Association, but a little bit more information and maybe life changes that you have made because of it.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Like I said before, I love sharing my story because I feel like somebody in the community can hear it, and maybe they're having the same symptoms, or maybe they know somebody who is, and they can get that person help or get themselves help. And so I think that is so incredibly important. But so my journey started, I didn't know it started in 2004, but that's when my heart journey started. So I was having unexplained passing out episodes. I would work out or I would do something strenuous, and then I would wake up on the ground with people standing over me, basically, not knowing what happened. And while I was serving in the military at the time, and the doctors would say I was dehydrated, or exhausted or even had anxiety, which most of that felt real because of what I was doing for work. You know, I was a firefighter, I was active, I was busy, things like that. So I just listened to them because they're doctors, right? I never questioned the doctor. I figured they had all the answers, so why question them? And then in February of 2014, I was working out at the gym on base, and I woke up on the ground, and my arms and my legs were numb, and I knew something was seriously wrong at that point. It felt like when your feet fall asleep or your hands fall asleep or something like that. And somebody looked at me and was like, "Man, you look really gray." And so they called 911 and they took me to the ER. And I had mentioned that to the nurse practitioner who was kind of doing tests and things like that. And she was like, "Oh, we'll just put you in for a cardiology consult to be safe." And it was very like, oh, okay, whatever. And so 6 weeks later, I went to the cardiologist, and they, you know, were doing an ultrasound of my heart called an echocardiogram. And they were zooming in on this one part on the screen. And obviously, I have no idea what they're looking at, but I can tell they're looking at the same section of my heart. And I'm like, oh, this is probably not very great, but whatever. And so I was trying to, like, in my head process, like, maybe something's wrong, but not a big deal. And my mom had come with to that appointment. And so they sent us to the doctor's office afterwards, which is probably the first red flag. Like, normally they just send you home and call you later. Right. And I was joking with my mom, and it's kind of morbid, but I had said to her, this is like in the movies where everything gets quiet and they play a sad song and the doctor comes in and tells you you're dying. And we kind of laughed because it's stressful, and, you know, we're trying to find humor in the situation. And the doctor walked in and said, "Petty Officer Gumm, I don't know how to tell you this, but your career in the Navy is over." And then proceeded to tell me that I had a very rare heart condition called left ventricular non-compaction cardiomyopathy, which essentially means the left ventricle of my heart, your heart is a full muscle, and the left ventricle of it is a sponge. So when I was working out and I was exerting a lot of energy, those spongy parts of my heart were sending my heart into a fatal rhythm. And when I was hitting the ground, that was essentially saving my life. So I had a lot of near-death experiences that I didn't realize until 10 years later that that's what was happening. And it really brought into perspective, like, holy cow, I'm 27 years old. I'm healthy for the most part. You know, I maybe drank a few too many energy drinks in my life, but for the most part, I was really a healthy person, and I was completely sidelined by this. So for the first probably year and a half after diagnosis, I spent a lot of time feeling sorry for myself, planning my funeral, thinking I was going to die, and having really real conversations with my parents about, like, this could be it kind of thing. And then I did a few events with Wounded Warrior Project that really kind of sparked my interest in sharing my story, and then was connected to Stacy at American Heart. And the more I talked about my heart condition, and the more I heard from other women, mostly because that's kind of who my target audience was, you know, I had 75, 80-year-old women coming up to me talking about they've had heart disease for 40 plus years. And that gave me hope. That gave me hope that maybe this wasn't a death sentence, and this wasn't something that was going to put me in an early grave, but an opportunity to share with other people how important it is to take care of your heart. And so that's why I always say American Heart saved my life, because without them, I would never have met these women or even talked about my heart disease. So.
Right. And Kelsey, so what kind of medical management do you do currently for your heart? Have you had different surgeries, medications? I mean, how do they treat something like that?
So I take medication daily to keep my heart rate down. So like a normal person's resting heart rate is probably like 60 beats per minute-ish. Mine's 45. It keeps my heart rate low so that if the spongy parts tickle it and send it into a higher rhythm, it doesn't kill me. That's really the very serious fact of the matter. I also have a pacemaker defibrillator in my chest. So if my heart rate were to get too low, it would essentially pump my heart for me. And if my heart rate were to get too high, it's like an AED in my chest. So it would shock my heart out of that fatal rhythm and save my life.
Okay. And then, are you able to, like do normal task activities like a job
Oh,
wise or no? I mean, obviously, probably not military, right? You said.
yeah, no,
So is it things that are just more of that active,
Mhm.
where your body is under stress, like a strenuous
So
physical stress?
so I do work full time, and I work to help veterans in crisis, kind of bring the whole party full circle.
Mhm.
So that's kind of fun. But I also do work out at my own pace. I love to ride a bike. Really, that's I found and fell in love with spin classes. I don't do as crazy of a spin class as they put in front of me. I modify it to work with my condition, and I know when my heart rate is getting too high, so then I'm able to back off a little bit. But I was never really much of a runner to begin with. It's not my jam at all. And so I still don't run, but I try to do 30 minutes of physical activity a day. That's a good recommendation, just to get up and moving, even if it's walking around your house, because here
Mhm.
it's really cold and there's a lot of snow. So walking around your house, or even doing light arm exercises, or whatever the case may be, while you're watching TV, just to keep your blood flowing and your blood moving. So I tried to stick to 30 minutes a day, or 5 days a week, try to keep that activity going so that my heart is continually being worked out, I guess.
Yes. That's so important. I talk about that all the time. It's like we just have to move, right?
Mhm.
Sitting is the new form of giving yourself a heart attack. You know what I'm saying? If you don't
Yeah.
move, if you stay sedentary all the time.
Mhm.
Before we jump over to Stacy and her story, Kelsey, I know this is off the topic, but I think that it is important if you know anything or statistically about it. But I know you said maybe I had one too many energy drinks. And I know that so many parents preach to their kids. I know that I've preached to my kids before, like, stop with the energy drinks. You
Mhm.
hear snidbits about that they're not good for your heart. Have you
Mhm.
recommendations for doctors, or know statistically, or either one of you, what those energy drinks that are out there are doing to our heart? I know this is a
So,
medical question, but I just
yeah,
throw it out.
I don't have like the actual numbers or statistics or percentages, but I know that energy drinks in general, most people don't drink just one. And most energy drinks are the equivalent of like 4 or 5 cups of coffee. So when you're drinking multiple ones a day, that caffeine overload is putting strain on your heart. I do know that much. I do know that military, because I can speak on that part of it, people thrive on energy drinks. They really do, like breakfast, lunch, dinner. That's in
Right.
replacement of water, things like that. And so that added stress on their heart, amongst a million other stressors that are happening to them, has caused a lot of heart issues in military people in general.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Because if you think about that, 3 a day, that's like 15 cups of coffee.
Yeah, and people do it. It's crazy. It's real crazy.
All right. Well, thank you. I know I diverted a little bit, but I just wanted to chat about that for a second. All right, Stacy.
So I was actually born with a congenital heart defect called aortic stenosis, and I also have a bicuspid aortic valve. So my aortic valve is a little bit more narrow than the average one, so it makes blood flow more difficult. And so I grew up being very athletic. I didn't really have anything that I noticed as I was growing up. But, when I was a kid, I just knew that I went to the like I went to a different doctor than most kids. And I didn't really start to notice things until I was in high school. I was in soccer, and so I started to notice myself slowing down and having trouble breathing when I was out on the field. And so when I went to the cardiologist, they told me, I think you should cut out soccer. I was like, okay, I can live with that, because I was really into volleyball. And so the next year, then they cut out volleyball. They said no more competitive. They told me no more competitive athletics, and I even had to stop gym class. And so that was like devastating for me. Like I remember crying for a week because I just thought like the world is ending, when you're in high school, like anything is just like, it was just my world. And so then a few months later, I was told that I needed to have open heart surgery. And then it kind of all made sense. I was like, oh, that's why I was having trouble breathing. I thought that I was just out of shape. But it just never got better the more the seasons went on and everything. So my junior year summer of high school, I had my open heart surgery, and it was life changing. To go through a major surgery at such a young age, and to have to lose sports at such a young age, I learned a lot. I learned, you can't take things for granted. I came home and I couldn't brush my hair or take a shower by myself. I don't think anyone wants to have their mother bathing them when they're 17 years old. And, I learned life is so much bigger than sports. And honestly, I think it was totally meant to be, because I got more involved in, marketing activities at my school, DECA. And it, really brought me on the path that I'm on today. Like I said earlier in the interview, I decided that I wanted to work for the American Heart Association. I was in marketing classes, and they made us do a cover letter and a resume. And I wish I had it with me, but I found a fake cover letter that I wrote to the American Heart Association. When I started here, I moved out of my parents' house, and I was like, oh my God, like I literally wrote this. So it was just, everything just came full circle for me. And it was, really cool. And it was, as difficult as it was at the time, I'm proud of everything that I learned at that time. And I'm now 29 years old, and I see my cardiologist every year. And right now, my heart is stable, my valve is stable, but I will need to have my valve replaced at some point. So I'm going to need another open heart surgery at some point. And so, it's always scary. Every time I go to the cardiologist, I always get like so worried, because I'm like, is this going to be the year that they tell me I need to have my surgery? So that's just, always something in the back of my mind, that I'm always like, or, if I start to get like a little chest pain, or I get more out of breath than normal when I'm working out, I'm like, is this it? Is this the symptoms that I had before? So, I'm always just paying attention to those things as I move forward. And I don't know if I should get into this, but I also I'm still single, and I haven't, had the chance to have children yet. And so I'm at a crossroads where I could either have like a mechanical valve or a tissue valve, because if I have a mechanical valve, then I would be on like blood thinners for the rest of my life, and that would make it more difficult to have children. And so, that's also another thing. If you get the tissue valve, it only lasts so long. So it's a taxing thing to think about, but
Right.
so that's where I'm at with my heart journey. But
Yeah. But yeah,
I'm
there's all those layers, right? I mean, it's not just like I was a teenager and then I had this. There's lifelong implications and then lifelong decisions that you have to make. When you
mhm.
were a teen, how long and what was that recovery process like? Was that a few months recovery? And were you able to go back? Like, how did you ease back into doing any type of physical, activity?
Yeah, it was pretty quick. I had the surgery July 22nd,
Mhm.
and I was back to school, at the beginning of September. So, I was still going to cardiac rehab during that time, but by the end, or by probably mid-September, I had talked to the varsity volleyball coach, and he actually allowed me to like practice with the team, because when I first went out into the yard to play with my mom, I was like, it was so hard. I like, could barely set the ball. It was, really, really difficult for me. And so I just, reached out to him, and I'm still like grateful to this day that he let me practice with the team, because I was able to like build my skills and my strength back up. I mean, I always say to myself, I'll never be as in shape as I was before my surgery, but
Right.
it was still great. And I remember still like running around. I would go for a run, and all I could do was like around the block I lived on like a circle. And so I could just run like one time around it, but I would always like try to push myself a little bit further every time. So it was definitely gradual. It felt like it was forever. But when I look back on it, I'm like, wow, within like a month and a half, I was playing volleyball with the varsity team.
Right.
So I would say it was relatively quickly, but at first it was like I couldn't sit up on my own. I could barely walk up the stairs. So it was hard, but I think for being someone so young, I was able to come back pretty fast.
Yes, yes, and lots of decisions as you do age, because they do say that when you're having surgeries as a teen or a younger kid, though scary, you're so young at that point in time, but also our body is so much stronger and more resilient to pop back.
Hmm.
At that time than as we age, and all of those other decisions we have with getting older, right?
I would also say that it was the mental aspect of it was really hard for me. Just being so young, like it was
Mhm.
hard for me. I have a twin sister actually, and just she started like a job, like it was her first job outside of she started at Target, and it was just like that was like a new step in her life. And then like just seeing all my friends like out having fun and doing things, it was hard, just going through that, and just like the trauma of going through a surgery like at such a young age, like, but I also think that it like strengthened me a lot, to like, I feel like I can do anything after having gone through that. So
Yeah, and speaking to that, and as we wrap up today, some of the programs and stuff that the American Heart Association has, do they have any type of support groups for teens? I know that outside of the American Heart Association, just from other interviews I've done, there are like chronic illness organizations, that have support groups for young teens and stuff that have chronic illness and all that. But support wise, is there things through the American Heart Association?
So we do have a support network on our website. I can find the web page and share it with you. So that's for anyone who's experiencing any sort of illness that's related to heart or stroke, and so you can connect with other people that are going through something similar. And then in Milwaukee, I do run a group called the Passion Committee, and majority of the people, anyone can join. You don't have to have heart disease or have experienced a stroke, but a lot of the people who are involved are survivors. So if anyone is interested in joining that group or wants, and it's almost like a little support group. And so if anyone's interested in joining that, they can email me.
Okay. And I know that just from obviously checking out all the stuff with the American Heart Association during American Heart Month, there is so many things going on this month and so many
Yes.
webinars. And like today I was going through my closet and I'm like, I gotta find something red for next time I'm on in this series. You're gonna see me in red. I was trying so hard this morning. But what are those some of those things that are going on that people can take advantage of this month?
So Friday, February 5th, coming up, is National Wear Red Day. It's a super important day. It's very iconic. We encourage everybody to wear red to help us raise awareness and bring attention to heart disease, because it is actually the #1 killer of both women and men. And even despite COVID-19, it is still the #1 killer. And so, it's just if you can again, wear red, share your photos. On social media, you can tag us at AHA Wisconsin. And if you live in Milwaukee, our local hashtag is GoRedMKE. And nationally, it would be Wear Red and Give.
Wear red and give. And then I know a whole bunch of webinars. I saw them. Do you have
yes.
on like all different topics? I don't know if you have, right. Is there some on like food and health and all of that as well?
Yeah, so tomorrow, at least locally in Milwaukee, we have a Go Red for Women couch conversation coming up, focused on health equity. And there's a couple of speakers. There's one from the Medical College in Wisconsin, and then someone from VCU, and someone located in Chicago. So we welcome anyone from all over the country to join. It's a Zoom webinar. And then later in the month, we are hosting a community conversation focused on blood pressure. And so again, anyone can join. It's a Zoom webinar. And then nationally, there's a number of women-focused webinars that are going to be happening. So like women's health. And we can share all of those links with you. And there's a number of topics. And some of them are related to women's health and women of color, since it is Black History Month.
Yes, I saw that. And there is a segment, I don't know if that's from the national page or your local page, but where it has all women of color and talking about all of those disparities and all of those things. I'm not sure if that's in Milwaukee specifically or if that's a national.
Yeah, I think there is one, that's coming up at the end of the month nationally.
Yes. So tons of different resources, tons of things to take advantage of. The first thing to do is go find something red in your closet.
Yes.
Just read the message, or I mean, I guess you could utilize anything, right? And
even if it's an accessory, a scarf, some shoe, if you have red shoes, anything will do.
Yes, and plan ahead. See, I should have planned ahead this morning. So we want to go red, share the information, obviously for awareness. And what I like to talk about through these COVID times and the pandemic is that though we're in a pandemic through the COVID times, all of that, people are still getting sick. And I always like to talk about that, these foundations, for them to have research to help cure regular illness that happens every single day, syndromes that are diagnosed, we still need to be raising funds and raising awareness during these times. Because as you said, Stacy, it is the #1 killer from anything else. So let's get out there, wear red, show support, and share the message. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, you guys have a wonderful day. I thank you guys all for tuning into the On Air Advocate this morning. If you want to know any more about the On Air Advocate, you can head on over to onairadvocate.com. And Stacy and Kelsey will drop below all of the different webinars, links, ways to access the American Heart Association. And so will I put that at the top. So thank you, ladies, so much for this morning. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having
us.
All right. Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful day.